Welcome back to News from your host. I'm here with Jim Rice, newly appointed Advisory Council member of Host in Ireland. Jim, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Garry.
Yeah, you're the new kid on the block.
Thank you.
You know, we don't even have your correct title on the slides yet. You're so new. Well, but you're not new to the industry, as in the data center industry. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit about sort of how do you arrive sitting opposite me as the new kid?
Well, my background is that, I've worked with Schneider for the last 31 years.
Wow.
And the last 16 years of that was as country president in Ireland. And therefore I've had a lot of exposure and experience with the data center industry. I suppose a lot of that has meant that I've been ingrained and involved in projects on a day-to-day, ongoing basis. And I've seen the growth of the data center industry over that period. Yeah. So it's been a very interesting experience for me.
Yeah,
learning all that, you know.
And your background obviously is more electrical or mechanical.
Electrical. So I'm an electrical engineer. Prior to joining Schneider, I worked in consulting engineers.
Okay.
And in the switchgear industry.
So do you actually understand some of this stuff?
I understand some of it. I won't say an awful lot of it, but I certainly understand some of it.
And what's the biggest change in the general industry outside of just the data centers, which are obviously, you often think that it's the first mission critical industry.
Yeah.
You know, but
well, it's not. I mean, you know, if you take the pharmaceutical industry, it's just as mission critical.
Of course.
You know, it's any of the continuous process industries are the same. The big challenge that we all see around us is the integration of technologies. You know, integration of mechanical, electrical, electronic, IT, and that's a big challenge in terms of the kind of industry at large. And even now we talk about the Internet of Things.
Yes.
And that's all about the integration of IT and OT.
Of course.
So therefore, you know, that is presenting a big challenge in terms of skills, the availability of people to get their heads around that kind of.
And it's a great point that you make, because often we, and you and I particularly, we talk about the people in the supply chain are sort of working on the industry,
yeah.
And the people that they're providing are more the in-industry people who are either at the touching the skin of the people to get the data, and often one feels that wouldn't it be great if we could take people who were understood the industry and put them into the on-industry people. Is that something that you see? I mean, how ultimately does a big company, because these are all global companies now, the Schneiders, Siemens, and that, and they're multidisciplined. Do you find they're bringing some of their experiences to?
I think it's a big challenge. The people challenge is a huge challenge for the industry, and I think that it's interesting because when you have people that are in the industry, they're totally ingrained and they're involved in managing the content of the industry itself. The people that are on the industry are much more fluid. You know, they're involved in other industries. I mean, you know, if I go back to my career over the period, it would have gone in different waves. You know, in waves from supplying equipment and solutions for the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
And then maybe that for 10 years, and then maybe another 10 years on the data center industry.
Sure. Yeah.
And so on and so on. So I mean, I suppose people that are working on the industry are probably more, as I say, fluid is probably the best description.
Yeah.
Because they know the technology, they know how to apply it, and then it's a matter of just trying to get the insights as to exactly what's important.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about sort of the interesting viewpoint you would have had in the 16 years or even your 30 years career, but particularly 16, because that's really the evolution of the digital revolution, as to the perception of the centre, I guess, that you would look at it, bringing it from a different set of eyes, because again, if you're so close to something, sometimes you think everybody knows. But as I said earlier to one of the guys, people who should know better think that the cloud is actually going to replace these data centers. And you're not saying that's your view, but certainly that's one of the things you and I have talked about a lot, is the perception of the man that should know better.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because a lot of people consider data centers as, firstly, big consumers of energy, and they are. There's no doubt about that. They also consider that, well, they don't really give a lot of employment. So if you take that perspective and then you look at it from the point of view of the industrial backdrop that exists all around, what's the decision? So somebody's going to build a factory or a process plant, and they're going to, take 10 megawatts, for example, of power.
Yeah.
And they're going to employ maybe 100, 200 people.
Sure.
The data center is going to take the same kind of power consumption and maybe employ 30 or 40 people.
Mhm.
But they're not recognising is the ripple effect or the
Yeah.
multiplier effect
Yeah.
on the jobs that are
Yeah.
available. So I mean that's a general perspective. But having said that, I think that the other thing that's not well understood is the whole story about data and data storage and data centres. I mean, the
Two
whole-
words in data center, and the center is only.
So I mean,
Yeah.
we shouldn't be talking about data centres.
Yeah.
We should be talking about data.
Yeah.
And the reality is that
Yeah.
if I talked to, and I actually did talk to some people recently, and one of them was talking about data storage
Yes.
as being the main function of a data center.
Mhm.
It's true to a
Storage and
point.
compute. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but at the same time, their view was that the size of that storage is disproportionate with the size of the island.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
So-
there's actually a sense that it's disproportionate to the size of the planet now.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, the reality is that with some new technologies coming through,
Yeah.
and we don't know. That's why at the moment, once you bring new technologies that are autonomous,
yeah.
that just drives or flies or walks on data.
Exactly. So I mean, I suppose my takeaway from that is that we need to build a better perception of what data is all about. We need to recognise it as an export,
An asset.
an asset and an
Yeah,
export.
Yeah.
And the way that the technology is changing now is significantly different than it was, at the outset.
So, future gaze slightly. We're sitting here after your first year as an advisor to Host in Ireland in 2019. What would you like to be saying was achieved in this year? Because I'm very excited about bringing in and having people part that are different in perspective and looking at things. What do you think will be a great year for us?
I think what would be good would be to have very clear. I mean, the old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. And it's true that I know we're in a fast-moving technology environment, but having said that, policy, perception, all those things are longer-term issues.
Sure.
And I think it's really important for the industry and this organisation to have a very clear roadmap as to what we want the industry to be seen as. And that's, for me, probably the most important thing to do, is to take that step along the way. Because it's fine to keep promoting the industry and to keep saying what we can do and how wonderful we are, but at the same time to take an inward view and to say, well, what do we want to achieve by virtue of this effort that we're making at this front end.
And a lot of the challenges, like in other geographic locations, including North Virginia, it's a better challenge to have of these challenges of success often than looking at the other way where you don't have anything and it's still a challenge. But Jim, thank you so much for being part of Host in Ireland this year. I really appreciate you taking the opportunity with us and enjoy the day.
It's an exciting time and look forward to it.
Thank you, Jim.